Hey everyone, welcome back to Music with Ryan. Today we're going to do, for our free little lecture lesson here, we're going to do something that I get asked about all the time, and it's always on the mind of the intermediate student looking to take the next step. And it's on a mind of a lot of people, really, no matter what level you're at, but they want to know how to improvise over songs they don't really know or never heard of, and that are easy to play though. You know what I mean? Like songs, especially, again, dealing in this country bluegrass setting, people play together a lot, right, in acoustic settings, and they play a lot of easy songs like GCD. You know, the songs, the progressions themselves aren't very hard, but they have no idea how to solo or improvise, I should say, mainly over songs they don't know. Maybe they know how to solo over a song they do know, like they've worked up the arrangement or they can play fiddle tunes, but people get frustrated and they just like want to know what to do next and like how to approach it, because it's kind of a big world and kind of a big deal. How to solo over songs you don't know. Improvise. Okay, so I've got 5 tips. I got 5 must-knows that will get you into improvising. Now, each one of these is another conversation in itself, another whole lesson in itself, and that you'll need to dig a little deeper. But I want to give you the 5 that I feel that are at the top. It's the most important things to know. So let's get into it, okay? So the first one we need to know is about, you need to name the notes on your guitar. You have to know the notes on your guitar. Now, I know there's like a lot of notes, but let's just think about first position, second position stuff. So, knowing the notes on our, number 1, knowing the notes on our guitar. Okay, now, again, I have a lesson of this in the free member area already. I'll link it up, but if you scroll around in the free member area, it's there. Because, and the reason is pretty simple. When we're flying around the neck, we need to know where we're going. We need to recognize the notes, because we're going to be doing scales and talk about chord building here. But we need to know what those notes are to allow us to have confidence about where we're going and the notes we're playing. And real quick, if you know that there's a half step between B and C and E and F, you can name all your notes, okay? So E, F, F sharp, G, A, B flat, B, C, D, E, D sharp or E flat, whatever, E, F, and so forth. And the keys that we're dealing with a lot of times, G and C and D, they don't have many sharps and flats, one here and there. Don't have to get too worried about it. We want to know them, of course, but we're not dealing with complicated keys is my point. So, again, I have a lesson for it in the free member area. I'm not going to go into depth about naming the notes on our guitar, but it might seem obvious, but if it's not, we need to start here, because we can't really move too much forward if we don't know the notes on our guitar, or beginning to know. And it's not going to happen necessarily overnight, okay? It's going to take a little time, but I promise it's not that hard, especially in the first 3 frets. You can do it. You really can. Okay? So that's number 1, knowing the notes. Number 2, scales. We have to have a pattern or a scale to improvise with. We need to have like a tool bag, right? We need to have tools. I should say, we need tools in our tool bag, or vocabulary from which to choose from. Okay, so scales, and along with the scales is technique. Okay, so I think I spelled technique right. I'm not the best speller. Okay, so technique, scales, they kind of go hand in hand. So whatever key you're in, we need to learn a scale. And I've got some scales in the free member area for the key of G, G minor pentatonic, G major pentatonic, and G major. Okay, so I got a bunch. But we need to know, again, if we're dealing with the key of G, we need to be able to have memorized a G major scale in like, if it's just one position, we need to know that. You know, G major, or G major pentatonic. Oh, add an extra note in there. So yeah, we need to have a scale to grab notes from, okay? Now, am I going to play that scale? Am I going to just rip over that scale up and down over top of a chord progression? Well, no, not necessarily. You could be a good place to start. Is it going to sound all right? Sound good? It'll sound okay sometimes not. You're always going to be playing, I guess, good notes, quote unquote, but it's a place to start. And again, we just need to have notes to grab from. So along with the scales, your technique has to be there. They go right hand in hand. And technique's a big one because otherwise, if we don't have clean picking technique, down, up, have a good sense of down, up, being able to, because if we can't play the scale clean at a slow tempo, I'm telling you folks, people want to play clean and better with better tone, and they're trying all these songs, which is good, but then they can't play them cleanly, and then I tell them to practice scales, and then they don't do it. If we can't go up and down the scale slowly and cleanly, at least once or twice, we have no chance at the other stuff. At improvising, cool solos, cool rhythm stuff. No, the chance is little, okay? We have to have good technique. And the best way to practice, or perhaps the easiest way, and maybe the best, is scales. Because they're easy. They're not that difficult. You can do them. But we have to pay attention to the right hand, to the left hand. We have to clear notes, precision picking, okay, getting a good sense of the down up. So it's so important to be able to do that. You have to start improvising. You have to start doing this, okay? Like I said, each one of these we could do a whole nother lesson on, talk more in depth about. But we're just going to cover the 5 big ones, okay? All right. So there's 2 of them. So number 3 is the big one. Is vital. Okay? Vital. Meaning, I should look up the definition. Must know. Okay? Critical to your improvising life. Okay? And that is how to build chords. You need to start understanding how chords are built and memorizing your major triads. So, how to build chords. And I'll say understanding triads. Okay, big ones. Understanding triads. A triad is a chord. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this one. But, so why is it important to understand how to build chords and triads? Well, it's going to help guide us for our note choice, and it's going to help our improvised solos sound better, okay? And so if I take a song that progression goes G to C to D, okay, so 2 measures of G, 2 measures of C, 2 measures of D, 1, 4, 5. I need to know how to dispel a G major triad, or G major chord, same thing. C major triad or chord, D major chord, okay? And preferably, I need to memorize them. I have all my major chords memorized, or a lot of minor chords too. So G major, G, B, D. C major, C, E, G. Again, to build the chords, you need the 1, 3, 5 tone of that chord's scale. Okay? So for a G chord, if you write out a G scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, we just need the 1, 3, 5 of that chord. Okay? So G, B, D. 1, 3, 5. Okay? C. C, E, G. 1, 3, 5. Can we just go up the musical alphabet? We start on C, C, D, E, F, G. C, D, E, F, G. Okay? Not talking about the chords in those keys. I'm talking about the tones within the scale. I know it might sound a little confusing, but that's okay. Need to be exposed. D, F sharp, A. 1, 3, 5. Okay, now I have those memorized. And again, so when I'm improvising, I'm playing a scale. And then when the chords change, I mean, obviously you need to know that the chord structure is important too. I didn't write it down. I don't have it here on my list. Chord structure, we need to know the chord structure. And most people that are looking to improvise understand the chord structure. You know, like, oh, I know it goes to G and D and C, because we need to know what chord we're soloing over top of. Okay? So when I'm playing my scale, say I have G major and I'm playing over that progression, when we change to a C chord, I want to land preferably on a C, E, or G. I want to land on those strong chord tones, preferably on a downbeat. Okay, and then I solo around with that scale, and then when I get to D, boom, I land on D, F sharp, or A. Okay, and that makes my phrase, I like made a phrase, a musical phrase, if I land on a strong chord tone. Okay, again, preferably on the downbeat. You know, this is just the beginning steps here. I'm just talking about the beginnings. You know, obviously there's lots of ways we can look at improvising, but for those of you just wanting to know basics or getting started. And then if I was on that D chord, then I would solo around with a scale, and then when I get back to G, I land on that G, B, or D. Okay, so, and often the melody notes, this is very important, often the melody notes of whatever song you're playing are going to be one of these chord tones when you're on that chord. Does that make sense? Let me know if you have questions down below. Write questions down below. So you're going, again, especially in this genre, bluegrass, country, old time stuff, the melody notes are on 1, 3, and 5 a lot of the time. So when I play my scale, I know my notes, and I know a scale. Now, if I understand how to build chords, I'm soloing on G major, I come to a C chord, I land on C, E, or G, preferably on a downbeat to sound strong. Or maybe halfway through the measure, okay? Like exactly on beat 3, maybe. And again, then I go to solo around with my scale, and then I land on D. I go to a D chord, and I land on the 1, 3, or 5. Okay? And then again, it makes the listener's ear sound like you know what you're doing, and it kind of like pulls me there, and then I land, and I sound resolved. My ear says, oh, okay, yeah, there was a phrase there. And you were soloing around, and we landed on something that sounded good. Okay? You can even get away with playing notes not in the scale a little bit, and as long as we land on these strong chord tones on the chord changes, you're kind of all right. All right? Okay, so I must move forward here. This one's going to be a little bit longer lesson, but I try to keep them under 20 minutes. I try to keep them under 15, but this one will be a little longer. Okay, fourth one. Number 4, timing. Timing. I could have made it number 1, really. I could have made it the most important thing, because I think timing is the most important thing in music, hands down. Like, notes are this close little second, But timing is everything. Timing is everything in life, in music, so forth. Sports, you know what I mean? Like, timing's everything. So we need to have, and to be a little bit more specific, we need to be able to play with the metronome or keep a steady beat. Okay? So if my progression is what I just did earlier, and I start to play a solo, kind of lengthen it. Need to be able to play with the beat. Hey, I got my metronome right here. Didn't even plan on that. To have a strong sense of pulse. This does not happen overnight for some people. This takes a little bit of time. Practice those scales with that metronome. Okay? That way you're practicing your technique, your scale, and your timing all at once. That's why it's, again, so important to practice scales. Like, I get that the exercise, it can get a little boring, it can get a little monotonous. I understand. But for those of you wanting a deeper understanding and be able to play at a deeper level than just messing around, you have to go in that direction. Okay, I did a big talk about this on my Facebook about playing scales is like hitting off a tee. Okay, you can't step up to the plate and expect to hit doubles, singles, home runs unless you hit off a tee for a long time. And even when you're a professional, they still hit off a tee every single day because it's basic. Okay? Professional basketball players still work on bounce passes every single day. So if you can't do a basic scale up and down with the metronome, don't expect to play really cool improvised solos. Okay? I'm just be honest with you. So timing is a big one, and we could talk about timing. I do have a lesson again that I'll link up a bunch of stuff, but I do have one about playing with the metronome as well. Okay, so last thing. I'm going to move right along. Timing. I feel bad that I'm kind of not talking about timing more, but for the sake of the talk, I thought building chords was kind of the big one, and then yes. Number 5, step into the fire. Okay. Step into the fire. What am I talking about? Go jam with others. Go play with others. Get out, buy a bunch of audio backing tracks at multiple speeds. You have to step into the fire. Some people say they go to bluegrass jams on the every weekend, or they go to the festivals when they're happening, which is awesome, and you need to. So that's what I'm saying. Step in the fire. When you play a song that you don't know, take a solo. You got to get burnt. You got to get beat up a little bit, quote unquote, beat up a little bit. That is the best practice possible because it puts you know where you're at. It forces you to just do it on the fly. You just have to do it. And then you start to understand how it works slowly. But I can't stress this enough for those of you that that are scared, and I get it because I did it too. I didn't want to solo over songs I didn't know I'll pass, and sometimes I pass, just in general if the song's complicated. But I'm talking about easy tunes, and you're comfortable with the people you're around. And even if you're not, you can tell them that you're new. Solo. Play a stinking solo. I don't care if it's terrible. You got to just step into the fire. All right? So that practice can't be replicated. Okay? Did you hear what I said? You can't go home and practice for hours and hours and hours and hours and try to replicate that practice. Can't be done. The only way you can do it is to go to the jam, find a buddy to play with, whatever it is, and then when they play a song you don't know, take a solo over it. Try. Okay? it's probably some of the best practice you can possibly do. Okay? I can't stress it enough. Step into the fire. My teacher told me to do that when I first was starting to play, and he said the same thing. He said, you got to go to these jams and get beat up a little bit. You got to go. You got to try, and it makes a huge difference. And I remember going to bluegrass jams, and people make me take solos I didn't want to, and I'd learn how to play bass, and they're making me take a bass solo. I'm like, no, and they're like, nope, you're soloing now. And that's the kind of people we want to try to get around with too. You want some people that are encouraging, like, yeah, go for it. Yep, step in there. I mean, you got to pick your situation, accordingly. Maybe it's not the right time and place, but usually it is. Usually it's fine. So yeah. Let me know what you think. Write a comment or question about experience you've had, good or bad, questions you might have had about my talk. I'll have some links up for the other lessons. I'm going to be doing a live Facebook talk about it today. I know if you're watching this, down the line, weeks later, obviously it's late, but I'll have my Facebook linked up, and again, you can watch the replay anytime, but if you have questions, more specifics, you can join me today on the live Q&A. You can watch it anytime, you can watch the rerun. So, that's about it for this week. It's a free lesson. Let me know what you think, and see you guys next time.